Eldritch Gods are some of the strangest. The ones that are dark, that kind of touch a part of ourselves that we don't like to show to the world, that we don't really understand ourselves, or we don't really know what it looks like. That deep, dark part of ourselves that's behind all the clouds, behind all the fog, and in the darkness of night, all wrapped up into one, behind everything. And these Eldritch Gods, the reason that, there are, you can say, real equivalents, but what is real when we're talking about Eldritch Gods? When we're talking about Cthulhu, when we're talking about Hastur, because they're tapping into something, Lovecraft and ourselves. When we're working with these beings, we're tapping into something. And I think that these beings actually exist, but then when we're talking about existence, whatever we're tapping into is an energy stream. It's already there. How we relate to it is on our personal level, is on our personal understanding and our personal ability or inability to view these things, to interpret these things correctly, that we're touching with our minds, that our energy is touching across dimensions. The brain, there's a reason why the brain looks like a nebula, that it looks like this strange cloudy galaxy that just has all these points all around it in a really interesting format, is because, as above, so below. Our brains are like a galaxy, and we're exploring all these connections that a lot of the connections are made by viewing something externally, seeing that is a thing, this is what it looks like, this is what to expect from this thing, this is how to relate to this thing, and this is its relevance to my everyday life. There's that, and then there's a bunch of that. But every time we equate something, every time we make an equation or a depiction of something, subconsciously, of course, our brain's just doing it. Every time we do that, it's making all these little connections to a trans-dimensional experience of that thing. Now, it'll always be through our various hues, it'll always be through our various lenses, if you will. But our brain is making those little subtle connections when we're forming memories, thoughts, when we're forming how we understand things. Our brain is making all these little connections, and the brain itself, I truly believe, is trans-dimensional. The pineal gland, I call it the trans-dimensional gland sometimes. That's at the center of the brain, the very center, kind of like right above the throat area, right there. The trans-dimensional gland, it's kind of in the head, and it's directly across, maybe a little bit down from the third eye. The third eye is a projection of the trans-dimensional gland, which is the pineal gland. The pineal gland projects what it is seeing. It projects its gateway. It projects its connection directly between our two natural eyes, our two very physically oriented eyes. It projects it right between our eyes, and we perceive it in the frontal lobe. But the actual gland itself is not in the frontal lobe. The pineal gland is back there, kind of the top, almost to the top of our spine, and it's connected to all the chakras, because we have all these various energies along our chakras. We have over 114, but there's 11 main ones. But it's like right near the top, our crown chakra's up here. So that pineal gland is working to connect all our lower energies, its lower manifestations, and Kundalini itself that rises and gives us enlightenment and gives us realization in this life. The pineal gland is working to combine all those energies and to use those energies to create a gateway for our consciousness, but also to open that gateway for various levels of consciousness and various manifestations of consciousness. So the pineal gland is using our energy, and it's however well that we use our various energies along our chakras, our pineal gland is opening that trans-dimensional gateway to the best of its ability so that we can connect to things. Now, this kind of went off on a tangent, not completely Eldritch God related. This is related to really all gods and dimensions in general. You can say Kabbalah or the Qliphothic tree. But that connection that we feel when something really grosses us out or really weirds us out, when something is really horrifying, but still we can't look away. Or something is really gross, but also there's a weird part of us that desires to look at it and to experience that. Like when you remove the very top layer of When a layer builds up on the top of milk, you remove that layer. It's really gross and icky, but we look at it, and it's like, and you look at all the detail, and there's something deep within us that's connecting to those gross and sloppy surfaces interacting. This might seem like a strange example or example that's not super relevant, but that's a very like understandable example. And the way that connects is when we imagine something a god so big, so gross, and so foreign, so alien to our minds. It's a little maddening, and it's gross. All these tentacles, or a complete mystery, like with Hastur, where if we don't know what's behind the mask, what's behind the hood. We really don't know. With Cthulhu, it's a little out front. It's a little like, here it is. To me, Hastur seems like a fallen king, a fallen Eldritch God that he seems more depressed than Cthulhu. He seems more distant. And it seems like everything used to be light. It used to be truth. It used to be present. Everything that he was, everything that he had used to be different. And his dimension, that is Carcosa, used to be different. It used to be whole. It used to not be cracked. It used to not be devastated like it is. And what we're perceiving when we connect to Hastur on the Walrider Project, or when we understand and work with Eldritch Gods, or Hastur isolated as an individual, what we're doing when we're connecting to Hastur, we're acknowledging a part of ourself that is broken, that is cast aside, that is cast away, that is not accepted by society, that is even shunned by ourselves, by our own minds, by our own understanding, that part of ourselves that even we reject. Trying to merge back with the whole, trying to understand the whole, whether it be yourself or society, but trying to find a way to mend those cracks, but come back from being broken so much stronger, so much vaster, and with so much more understanding. Darker, yes. Maybe perhaps strange and weird, like the Eldritch Gods are some to be, but stronger. And this time, whatever was going to cause the breaking is not going to be a problem this time. Whatever we might face that could cause a similar situation in which we broke, or in which we weren't able to meet something, or in which Hastur wasn't able to meet something with his full strength, that will not be a problem in the coming days because of that initial breaking. Hastur is the broken, but also the mender, and the bringer of power to a situation that had once made us vulnerable. When we're touching these things, when we're touching these ideas and this description of Hastur in our heads, him being a broken god, a mad god, but also a strong god, maybe a mysterious god, a scary god, but also an advisor, a leader, a giver of truth. When we're touching all these descriptions of Hastur, and even as I describe them, you're touching them. And when you gaze upon, I have other videos in the Walrider Project, but when you think about a hall of eyes, a library of eyes, and when you think about that tree at the top of the stairs in Carcosa with all those eyes on the leaves, and all those children whistling just right around the tree, and there's just this opening black abyss right above the tree, but it never quite touches the tree and never brings anything in. It's just waiting. But when you imagine this, and when you imagine the fields of yellow and the grass that bleeds red, when you imagine all of these broken steps and these buildings that are cracked of ancient marble, when you imagine all these things, you are touching Carcosa, you're touching Hastur, and that gateway at the center of your brain in the pineal gland is just a little bit more attuned. But in order to touch these Eldritch Gods, to understand them, to really get this whole current, to really understand this whole current and really, take full advantage of it and to really fall into it, you have to be a little bit broken. You have to be a little bit maimed. You have to be a little bit deformed. But you know what? That's okay. We're going to come back stronger. It has to. That's who he's the God of and for us and of this journey. This painful but wondrous journey. Hail the old God. Hail Hastur.